So, of course, this isn't the topic that I originally had planned to talk about on the podcast, but I felt like talking about anything other than what's happening in my own backyard would have been insensitive. So, let's jump in.
Few things are as powerful. Few things are as powerful as love.
What is going on, beautiful people? Welcome back to the Affirmations for Black Girls podcast, where we focus on personal growth and cultivating a healthy relationship with ourselves. I am your host, Tyra, the creative, actress, content creator, and mental health enthusiast. And I know a lot of you guys already know about what's going on here in Los Angeles. I did post a story on the Affirmations for Black Girls Instagram, but if you do not know, Los Angeles has been hit by some pretty bad wildfires over the last week or so. And I live in LA and I have been here the entire time. And even though I had plans for other things to talk about on the podcast, nothing would have felt right to post instead of this, what's going on right now. So if you don't want to hear about natural disasters at all, then this isn't the episode for you. You can go ahead and click out. But I will say I'm not really going into detail on the actual disasters themselves. I am more so talking about the effects of them, how to regulate our nervous system during crisis, and giving tips and tricks on, what to do after these things happen and how to stay prepared in case something like this happens in your area, because I do think it's something that is not discussed enough and is not taken seriously enough. So, if you think you have it in you to listen to the episode, please, please listen. Now, before we jump all the way in, I do want to say that this is a video episode. If you are listening to the podcast, you can go and watch the video on our YouTube page. It is linked down below always, but it is called the Affirmations for Black Girls YouTube channel. And if you're already listening, hey, y'all. Hey, I'm safe. I am so glad to be here. I'm so grateful that I am safe. I am staying vigilant and I am packed and ready to go, besides all of this stuff that I just took out of my car to make sure that I filmed an episode for you guys. Um, but yes, to give a little bit of backstory, a fire broke out in the Palisades in here in California, like in LA, I think Tuesday. And since it was in the Palisades, it was kind of far from me, but that same okay, so that notification that you guys just heard is the Watch Duty app. I keep that app on at all times now, even in a situation like this is going to be on. So you may hear it throughout the episode, but I'll cut out anything that doesn't need to be said. They give live updates on the fires. But as of right now, the fires are still burning. They are containing them, but the fires have been burning. So Tuesday, the fire broke out, and Tuesday night we had really, really bad winds, and I lost power here in my apartment in the valley. Now, I just thought it originally was going to be a windstorm because the Santa Ana winds always happen around this time, and fires happen. But the fires created a perfect storm for it to get out of hand, which is exactly what happened. A lot of the Palisades is no longer what it was prior to the fires, and there was also another big fire, the Eaton fire, that has all but demolished entire communities. Um, so, with that being said, before we continue to jump in, I just wanted to give you guys a little, snippet of what is actually happening here in case you did not hear. But if you want more details, you can go and it's all over the news. So, you can literally type in LA wildfires and the information will start to come up. I don't want that to be a place where we, go through the news. I'm not a person who likes to look at the news unwarranted. I like to look at it in the capacity that I can handle it. So that is really just about all the detail that I'll go into about these. You can go and look it up on your own, and I'll also be putting some resources down in the description box below if you feel so inclined to help out LA, help out the first responders and our firefighters. Our firefighters are doing an amazing job. There are also firefighters that are flying in from all other countries that are helping out with this, because it is truly an immense um, an immense undertaking for us to do by ourselves. California is huge, y'all. I don't think people really understand how big California is. There was a post going around to give people ideas of in their home state how big one the Palisades fire is and how big the Eden fire was, and let's just say that they are both bigger than the city of Manhattan in New York. That's how vast both of these fires are, and they're both bigger than that. They're both bigger than that. So with that being said, I'm putting some resources down below. If you guys feel inclined, just look through them. Maybe sow a seed to a family. There's a lot of GoFundMe links and things like that. But I am safe. Now, with that being said, um, let's go ahead and I was going back and forth with this because I didn't know if I really wanted to have an affirmation of the week, because in a crisis situation like this, I'm not really an affirmation girl, and I'm gonna keep it 100% with you guys. I am more so of a let me sit quietly and regulate. But I know that this podcast helps more than just me. So, I will have an affirmation for this week, but when I am in crisis mode, I like to play my lo-fi music. I was going back and forth between us having a moment of lo-fi for like 5-10 minutes and doing the affirmation. But I do think having those words when you're in crisis can definitely help at some point. So if you do want to do a lo-fi moment, I do have an hour of lo-fi, just straight lo-fi music on the YouTube channel already. So you can go and listen to that as well. Super easy to find. Just go to our YouTube channel and take a listen. And it's an hour of just lo-fi music that could really help you out. But for those of you who enjoy the affirmations and they really help, this week's affirmation is I am grounded in the midst of chaos. I really think we may have done this affirmation before, but it is so timely. So let's go ahead and drop in. I am grounded in the midst of chaos. 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 Let's say it one last time together, y'all. I am grounded in the midst of chaos. And we're just going to let this song play all the way through right now. For those of you who need a second to regulate and gather yourself, Lord knows I need it. This time with everything that's going on in LA has just it's brought up a lot of things for me. One, unpreparedness, especially since I'm a transplant here, y'all. I have extended family here, but I didn't grow up here. And living in LA, I have experienced earthquakes. I have experienced wildfires. They have never gotten as close to me as these fires have. And it just put into perspective how ill equipped I have been in the past. And trying to get prepared in the midst of crisis is just not where any of us should be. And that's why I said I really wanted you guys to stay for this episode because I think it's important to know what we need to have during these times. So, I first want to start on this episode because I have experienced natural disasters, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us have in some capacity because natural disasters happen all over the world. They look a little different, but they're all one and the same in the fact that they are disastrous. So, a few of you guys know this, and I won't go into detail because I know a lot of people from Louisiana listen to my podcast. But in a nutshell, Katrina, the hurricane, happened in 2005. I was in fifth grade. And it was a very uncertain time. And I was at an age where I felt helpless. I didn't know everything that was going on. I was sheltered from the news, but I was still feeling all of the energy and emotions that were going on in my city. And even though we weren't directly affected by Katrina, the effects of Katrina still live in my hometown to this day. It's 2025. And there was recently a movie that came out called Katrina Babies that really made me think, wow, nobody ever asked me how I was doing. So in the movie Katrina Babies, it was produced by a Katrina baby himself. He actually lived in New Orleans at the time and had to evacuate. And he posed a question, did anybody ever ask you, the kids, how you felt about it, how you processed it, and all of that? So it really just made me think, wow, even in that time, I subconsciously, or I just didn't know what to call it, but I had to regulate myself. I spent a lot of time outside. We didn't have electricity for like 2 weeks after Katrina, but I spent a lot of time outside when I could. It was also a scary time because the news really painted people evacuating from New Orleans as the enemy or as criminals and all of this stuff. We had a citywide curfew. We had to be at home at a certain time. We double locked our locks and stuff because apparently there were a lot more break-ins and crimes happening, all of that. I'm pretty sure it was not true. And if it was true, I'm pretty sure it was not the evacuees from New Orleans. Now looking back at it, I grew up in a very racist, small southern town. Um, but I remember all of this fear being put into us, but also it was a time of uncertainty. It was a time where I just had to try to go with the flow, but I was also nervous because anytime my mama and daddy would leave the house, since I was thinking about all of the things that I had heard passing by on the news or heard grown folks talking about at the time, I was just a nervous wreck, and I just wanted things to be back to normal, which it never was. Um, so I think looking at a lot of my friends, a lot of people stayed in other places after Katrina happened, and some are just returning home, some never did return home. And it just helped me to learn how to be compassionate for people. And it really taught me how resilient cities and communities can truly be. And it's honestly a beautiful thing. And it sucks that such a beautiful thing has to come out of something that is so horrendous. But things happen, and I was listening to in church today. Torre was talking about how incidents like this prepare us. They bring us closer. They really put us in a position where we have to depend on God, and they put us in a position where we have to show up for each other. And I couldn't think that that's more true. Natural disasters and any type of experience where people from all walks of life are experiencing it at the same time. We just all went through COVID. The whole world went through COVID, just about. They bring us together in ways that we didn't know we needed to be brought together in. So I choose to focus on the positive, but there are all types of emotions that can happen during natural disasters, and the emotional toll can be high. Since all of this has happened and since the fires had grown so big, we have all been in a state of stress. I have been ready to evacuate my apartment twice now, and I live in an area where wildfires should not get to me. But since we had the red flag warnings, which means that the winds were super high and wildfires can be more imminent, it just brought them closer than they had ever been. These are the biggest fires in California history. Fires have never been this big at all, but the last big fires were back in, don't make me lie, but I think 2008 or something like that. It's been a minute. Um so the Palisades fire has been growing closer to where I live, and the community that it has just reached as of yesterday. The news was saying fires have not been here in 50 years. And that is what I mean. Like, we are living in different times, and we do have to come together as a community, and we really have to make sure that we are uplifting those around us. And even if you are not directly impacted, no matter where you are in the world, it is okay to feel overwhelmed. It is okay to need to take a step back. It is okay to need time to regulate yourself. As I always say, if your cup is not full, you cannot help other people. There are a lot of people out here in LA, me, myself included, that have a little bit of survivor's guilt in some way. And it's just because it's like, dang, there's so much destruction happening around me, but I'm good. And you feel guilty about it, and you want to jump in and help and do the things that you need to do so you can feel worth saving, you know? And I just want to say all of those emotions are valid, but it's really important that we take a step back and regulate ourselves before we go out and help. And it is okay to be like, thank you, God, for saving me and what I have. It is okay to feel all of those emotions. We are human. All we can do is feel each emotion that we have. We need to let it run its course. We need to get through everything instead of holding things in so that we can lend a helping hand to our community and those around us.
Hey, you're on my mind, you know.
Now, I will say this. I have been doom scrolling, y'all. I have been doom scrolling on all of my social media, and it has just been very hard to get out of the doom scroll. And I think it's because we are navigating an uncertain time here in Los Angeles. The fires are still going. While they are being contained, you never know because we're still in those red flag warnings. Now, the red flag warning has now been downgraded to a lesser red flag warning, but we are still in red flag warning nonetheless. I think until the end of this weekend or Monday or something like that. But it's an uncertain time. So I'm telling myself and I'm telling anybody else who is going through an uncertain time, especially if it's like a community wide thing or something that is being publicized by the news, limit your screen time. Take time away. Like, I know that, especially with natural disasters and things like this, where, like in my situation, the wildfires are still going on. I have to stay connected. I have to know if I need to evacuate. I have to know if I am in imminent danger. I have to know if I will be in danger or what I need to do. But we need to limit that screen time, because I will say there are so many people and so many companies that will try to capitalize off of your terror, off of fear, off of the need for housing, for food, for anything during these times. There are people that will try to capitalize off it in any way that they can. And one thing that has really, y'all, it has really pissed me off. So while these big planes, I forgot what they're called, but they go into the ocean and they pick up like 1,500 gallons of water to drop onto these fires. They come from Canada. These big planes, while they were fighting the fire over in the Palisades, there were drones flying in the sky, and one hit one of these planes, took the plane out of commission, and it had to go in for repairs because it put a big hole in the wing. And situations like that just really get under my skin. And I bring that up because we don't know what that content was being used for. We don't know who was flying that drone. It was a bigger drone because it did puncture the plane, but it wasn't anything that was being flown by the government. It wasn't anything that was being flown by the first responders. Nothing. It was somebody out there being selfish and trying to get content of the current natural disaster that is happening in real time. And I don't have I literally have no patience for anything like that. I hope when they find them, they give them the maximum sentence and give them the maximum fine, because one, you could have taken that plane down and killed the people in that plane that was trying to fight these fires to save these people in this community. And that's just it's just unacceptable, to be honest. Um Another thing that you can do to protect your mental health during these times is to make sure that you ground yourself by building small, consistent routines like journaling, meditation, or deep breathing. For me, I have to keep my hands busy. So I've been building more Legos. I have been coloring. I have also been cleaning up my house. I made a flower bouquet this morning because I had flowers that I bought on Monday before all of this had happened, and I hadn't yet put it in into a vase or anything. I have really been taking the time to do things with my hands because I know that that is what's going to help keep me sane. So think about the things that are going to help keep you sane as well. If you're going through a crisis or anything like this, or if you're just playing a waiting game, it is okay to try to get your mind off of things. We do not need to worry 100% of the time about what's going on, even if it's happening in real time. That additional cortisol and that additional stress is not good for anybody. So, literally, do the things you need to do, even in times of uncertainty, is very important. And you can also lean on your support systems. For me, I have only been talking to really my mama. So, my mama, my daddy, my brother, I've really only been talking to them. Outside of that, I don't really want to talk to anybody during this time of uncertainty. And it's because I know people mean well, but they ask you the same questions over and over. And they ask you questions like, "Are you okay?" That is a fully loaded question, because while I am safe, while I still have all of my stuff, I'm still afraid. I'm still on edge. I'm still trying to regulate my nervous system. I'm still feeling for all of the people who are losing things. I have survivor's guilt. I'm feeling all of this stuff that I don't quite know where to place yet. And you're asking me if I'm okay, and my subconscious or my conscious is feeling guilty if I say anything other than yes, because I am okay, but I'm also not okay at the same time. And I have been trying to tell myself it's okay to say you're not okay. But also in this situation, if I tell my family that I'm not okay, especially since I'm far away, they're not going to leave me alone. So it's really an interesting dynamic to navigate. And while at the surface of everything, I am okay physically, mentally, we are all going through it. And that is okay too. But I talk to my mama, especially when I need to. And if I don't want to talk about what's going on, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know. And she knows to stop asking questions like that and go find the information elsewhere, because the information is everywhere at this point. But it's very important to have a little bit of a support system, even if that's other people who are currently going through what you're going through. Like for me, talking to other transplants, me and one of my friends went to volunteer yesterday so we could feel some sort of usefulness. And all of this stuff that we're feeling is okay. We're all trying to do our best during this time of uncertainty and during this time of crisis, and everybody ain't got everything figured out. So it's really important that you take the time to do what feels right, based on your personal intuition, because that will look different for everybody. Because how you respond in crisis depends on your experiences and your experiences alone. I have been in crisis mode before in other types of natural disasters. So that has directly impacted how I act in these ways. For a hurricane, all you can do is sit still and hunker down. That's what I tried to do in this wildfire. And even though we have to be ready to evacuate, I'm sitting still. outside of them saying, Tyra, you need to go right now. So everybody's everybody's way of dealing with this will look a bit different, but it whatever way you're choosing to deal with it, um it's okay, as long as you're not, and I don't mean anything out there like falling into drugs and that type of thing. That's not what I mean by this, but any way you are choosing to healthily deal with your current crisis or a crisis or whatever is okay. And the last thing I want to say about this is normalize feelings of helplessness. It is okay. We don't have everything figured out. And that's why I say everybody's response is going to look different because all of our experiences are different. But we all feel a little sense of helplessness in crisis mode. But focus on what you can do in the moment. And I don't necessarily mean like going volunteer like I did, because I didn't go and volunteer until yesterday. The fires have been going on since Tuesday. I did not feel safe enough to leave my space and focus on helping those who were already impacted until yesterday. And that is totally fine, because there are some people who did before me, and there are some people who won't until after I already did. So everybody has their part to play, and I'm playing my part the best way I can, but I'm making sure that I am taking that time to regulate my nervous system, because this is not the time to be puffing up your chest and say, well, I got all my stuff, so I need to get out and help no matter how I feel. Put them feelings to the side. F your feelings. This is not the time. This is not the time for that. This is not the time. Regulate yourself, because this entire crisis is going to take years and years and years to fully, well, it's not even, I was about to say it's going to take years to come out of, but it's not even the fact that you come out of it. We build and we mold ourselves around it. Like for example, Katrina. We will always remember Hurricane Katrina, but New Orleans is now a new bustling city. It's not what it was in 2005. And it will never be what it was in 2005 because of all of the displaced people and the communities being destroyed, but we have built something new. So the same thing will eventually happen for LA, but regulating yourself and taking the time that you need before you lend a helping hand definitely play a part. So what can you do at this moment? Is all that you can do sit here and deep breathe to regulate your nervous system? Can you go and help out? That is up to you to decide. Now, I know you may be saying, okay, I'm not in LA. I'm not facing this right now, but now I feel some sort of compulsion to do something. Even if you haven't experienced a natural disaster, you can still connect with people who have, through feelings like the need for safety, the need for stability, feeling how you felt how uncertainty feels at some point in your life. We can all have compassion for the people of LA, people everywhere else who are going through similar situations. Compassion is a real thing, and there is always a common thread between you and the next person for feeling some morsel of what they're feeling. And while it's not okay to say, oh, I know exactly what you're going through and you need to do this, saying, I feel for you. I'm not in your place, but I'm here if you need, or whatever you can offer, just speaks wonders to your character. And it is very needed in a time like this, especially for a natural disaster that has taken so much from so many people. If you're thinking, okay, Tyra, how can I support as a listener of the podcast? Like I said, I'm putting resources down in the show notes of this episode for you to take a look at. I am not like I said, I'm a transplant here, so I'm just sharing resources that I see on social media. I have not compiled any resources of my own. I am just sharing what I have seen come from different organizations, because there's tons of resources out there and there's tons of ways to help, whether it's through donating money, helping people's GoFundMe's, helping with cleanup out here, like boots on the ground, helping with cleanup, talking to a friend, calling somebody, supporting a local business that is still thriving in these areas or by these areas that were impacted, because there are so many businesses that are helping people, displaced people, and our first responders. And we need to help fuel those businesses so they can continue to help. Um, and also, one thing that I want to say is, if you are donating clothes or things like that, like if you don't have any money to give and you want to donate, give something, just keep in mind, and be intentional with your donations. Yesterday when I was helping out at a donations drop off center, I was sifting through or I was organizing clothes, and the amount of dirty clothes, or not dirty, dingy clothes, like worn out items that were there, or used underwear, like underwear without tags. I'm not sure if it was actually used, but it's like, come on, y'all. These people have just lost everything. Just because they lost everything don't mean they need a moldy towel given from you. And I know everybody's level of dirty or worthy of being given is a little different, but when it comes to your undergarments and things like that, it is very important that we are hygienic. Even towels, if the towels are dingy and dirty, like, come on. So if you are thinking about donating, just keep that in mind. Gently worn, gently used clothing is great, but as far as like underwear and things like that go, just buy them new, please. Like, you can get a pack of underwear from Walmart. It don't have to be no expensive underwear. People just need underwear at the end of the day. And I will say one thing that I did notice, through this donation center, there's tons and tons of women's clothes, tons and tons of baby clothes, but young kids clothes and our teenager, like clothes for teens, and men's clothes were definitely lacking. At least where I was, this was my first time ever helping out at a center like this. But it really put into perspective for me, like the women's clothes was overflowing. We had way too many women's clothes. And I know that that's the easiest thing to go, because us women, we, shift through our wardrobe. We may, gain a little weight, lose a little weight, whatever the case may be. And we like, that doesn't serve me anymore. Cool, I get it. But just to also say, men need clothes too. They need new underwear too in this type of situation. And also like teenagers and stuff, they still have to go to school. They need, like, you don't want your child going to school with rattered, tattered clothes on just because you did lose everything. Like, these kids deserve to still feel confident and comfortable in what they are wearing. So if you do choose to give clothing, please, 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 please just keep that in mind. And the last thing that I do want to stress to you guys is to be prepared for a disaster in your area. Now, this is not a fun topic, but it's something that we need to know. And that's the thing, like whenever we had like started having earthquakes and things here in California, I thought I was prepared, but people would say, "Do you have your earthquake kit?" And I'm like, "No." But in the back of my mind, I still have this layer of, oh, well, it won't get that bad. And one thing that this situation, this experience has taught me is that it can get that bad. That is the same thing that happens for a lot of different areas of the world. When your areas are prone to these natural disasters, you're like, okay, we got hurricanes all the time. We're going to be fine. New Orleans was not fine in 2005. And granted, it wasn't necessarily because of the hurricane, it was because of infrastructure and the levee breaking. But it still happened, and people were still unprepared. In this situation, there were some people who, and this is no excuse or anything like that, there were some people who did not heed the warnings of evacuation, and some people got stuck. There was a lot of gridlock. People had to leave their cars, they had to leave their pets at home. Stay prepared. And I was watching a video yesterday, and the girl was saying, I felt so stupid. I felt like I was overreacting. And it's like, it's better to overreact than to underreact and find yourself in a situation where it can be life or death. It is very, very much better to overreact. And that's something that I'm gonna always hold dear. So think about the types of natural things that can happen in your area. Also, think about your evacuation routes. Make sure that you have, because I also, fun fact, y'all, I didn't even have things to help me out if the power went out. I didn't have a lamp. I mean, I have like my studio lights and things that run on battery that I could use, but those batteries were not charged, and I only had one light for like an hour into us losing power last Tuesday. So, have the things you need. I've realized that as I get older, I need to be prepared for an emergency. I need to make sure I know what to grab. When I was packing at the moment when I got the evac warning, I started packing and I was frantic because I was like, what do I need? What do I need? I definitely didn't take none of this stuff. I was like, none of that stuff matters. But then after reflecting on me taking the time to like pack up, I was like, wow, I left my photo albums. I have a brooch from my great grandma. I didn't grab that. I didn't grab my class ring. I didn't grab those sentimental items that I have brought to LA because in my mind for that split second I was like, okay, this is not my home. And that is not a situation that I want to continue to find myself in. I want to know my evacuation route. I want to know my evacuation plan. I want to know what is important to grab. I want to know what is okay to leave. I want to always be prepared from here on out because it was very stressful going into I just went into Target with my friend and we were getting like food items and things that we needed just in case we had to evacuate and I didn't know what to get. I didn't know what to get. So take some time, even though it's not fun. I really want to stress the fact that it is important to just be prepared. And one other note of that with the wildfires happening, there were some people who took the time to build their own water systems in the Palisades, and it it was like an overreaction, like we just talked about. They figured this stuff out. So it was this family, and the dad was like, "We need to do this. We need to do this," and he had been talking about it for a long time. So his son said, "Okay, we can figure this out." So they bought like a generator and hooked it up to their pool and had different sprinklers all over the place in case of a wildfire. And they did this a while ago. And a wildfire came. They saved their house and the houses next door because they were prepared. And you never know if you need to use these things. And we're living in different times now, y'all. As a whole, things are happening. Storms are getting bigger. Tornadoes are getting bigger. Like natural disasters are getting bigger. And don't even get me started on climate change because it is real. Okay? Don't even get me started on that. But this family was prepared and they saved their house. And it's not about saving the house in a like, in a materialistic way. They were prepared to do so. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. That's something that I definitely did not do. But with that being said, please, like, disaster preparedness is very important, even though it's not fun to talk about. And I want all of y'all to be prepared. I care about each and every one of y'all. We've talked about navigating uncertainty. We've talked about regulating ourselves during crisis. And I just wanted to say all of this because it's not something that's talked about enough. We see a lot of things happening overseas, especially if you live in the United States. There's this sense of safety superiority that we have here in the United States. And for me, that's no longer. And I just want to share it is super important for us to all be prepared. As you guys know, I was robbed at gunpoint a couple of years ago. I also experienced Hurricane Katrina. I experienced these wildfires that are currently going on. And it just goes to show that nobody is exempt from things happening. So it's better to be prepared than to be trying to get prepared during a crisis. So, with that being said, that is all that I have for you guys today. We're not going to do a fun closing segment today. I'm sorry about that. But I really think that this is an important message. Instead of a fun closing segment today, I'm going to put a couple of lo fi beats at the end of this track, at the end of this episode for you guys. And I hope you enjoy them. Again, take some time to look at the description box below at the resources, see if there's anything you can do to help. I am not trying to strong arm you into helping in any way, but this is something that has now become near and dear to my heart. LA is now my home, and I really want to do my part in taking care of the community and helping rebuild the communities around me because LA has given me so much. LA gave me this podcast. I know this podcast could have started anywhere else, but living in LA is what helped me come up with this idea of this podcast. So I do feel like I have a part to play in this, and I do because I live here. But I just implore you to be prepared. So thank you guys so much for watching today's episode. I am slowly trying to figure out what the rest of this month will look like. But with that being said, thank you so much for listening. If you are not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, please, please, please go over there and subscribe. We have a lot of video content over there. If you have not bought the New Year Define Me workbook, the link is down below. Go ahead and buy that. 2025 is your year to create the life that you want to live. So go ahead and get the workbook. Um, Subscribe to the podcast, leave us a rating and a review. I love reading all of you guys' reviews. And I will try to see you guys this Wednesday for a Pep Talk Wednesday episode. But like I said, we are still in crisis mode here as the fires are being contained. But I do want to give myself grace if I do need to take a step back for the rest of the week or next week. But I hope I see you guys on Wednesday for a Pep Talk Wednesday episode. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for listening, and I will see you guys again soon.